I'm sorry it's been a minute, but I've been sick as a dog. With all the ups and downs the Las Vegas Raiders have been through, they're actually still in the playoff hunt. They need help to go along with winning their last 3 games, but they're still in it. Of course, the best thing about the Raiders is their future, though. They seem to be a long way away from contending when fired head coach Josh McDaniels was in charge, but that's no longer the case. We can clearly see that the Raiders are just a quarterback away now. That's because the Raiders staff has tried a few things and made a few discoveries since interim head coach Antonio Pierce took over. I really hope Pierce gets that interim tag removed, because with him and all the discoveries he and the staff made, the Raiders' future looks bright. We start with the pass rush on defense. Edge rusher Maxx Crosby was the Raiders' entire pass rush for the longest time, but due to some recent discoveries, that's no longer the case. He finally has help. Edge rusher Malcolm Koonce wasn't used a lot at the beginning of the season, but once Pierce took over, that changed. Koonce is rewarding the Raiders now. He has 23 pressures, 6 quarterback hits, and 4 sacks over his last 6 games. 2 of those sacks came Thursday against the Los Angeles Chargers. Koonce and Crosby look like bookends these days. There's still room for 2023 first-round pick Tyree Wilson, too. He was drafted to be an edge rusher, but in the last 2 games, Wilson has looked like he was taking number 7 overall to be an interior defensive lineman. He actually had a sack from the interior against the Minnesota Vikings. His long arms make him hard to block in there. I suspect he's going to add 15 pounds to his 6'6 frame next offseason and move inside on a more regular basis. Crosby and Koonce on the edges and Wilson inside will be a force to be reckoned with. The Raiders made another discovery on that defense, this one in the secondary. When I first heard about the Raiders signing corner Jack Jones, I thought, here we go again. Pierce coached him in high school and in college, so they obviously knew each other well. The McZiegler regime knew Jimmy Garoppolo, Chandler Jones, and Brandon Bolden well too, and what did that get the Raiders? Well, I gotta walk this one back a little, don't I? It looks like this Jones kid can play a little bit. He hasn't been Mr. Shutdown Corner or anything like that, but he's pretty good. He's shown some sticky coverage skills at times, and he does his homework because his play recognition is on point, as he showed on the 16-yard pick 6. Hey, he already has as many pick 6s in a couple of games for the Raiders as Marcus Peters had for them in his 12 games with the team. I hope that play was a sign of things to come for Jones. He's only 25 years old, so he can have whatever kind of future he wants to have with the Raiders. Thank goodness this is nothing like the situation with Garoppolo, Jones, or Bolden. Jones looks like he's going to be a major asset to this team. It's crazy when the offense can't even score a point one day, then score 49 points 4 days later, especially when the offense has been horrible all year, scoring just 15.5 points per game. You can't just say it was a different opponent either. The Raiders did exactly what they needed to do to change things. They put speedy receiver Trey Tucker in there with superstar receiver Davante Adams more. I've been telling people all year Tucker needs to be on the field with Adams more. Defenses have stacked the box to stop running back Josh Jacobs and used a free safety to double Adams all year, but the Raiders did nothing to counter. They just took what the defense gave them and completed passes to Jacoby Myers for a few yards here and there. That's what the defense wants. Against the Chargers, the Raiders finally put Tucker and his speed out there on the field with Adams, and he beat the defense deep. Next thing you know, the safety was scared to double too hard, so they started throwing to Adams again. Adams went over 100 yards receiving, and the Raiders won. Tucker and that speed of his will help himself, Adams, and that whole Raider offense be more productive. Another guy I'm really excited about from that receiver core is tight end Michael Mayer. When the season first started, I wondered why the Raiders traded up to get him because they weren't using him much. He flashed his talent enough for me to see he was worth trading up for, but again, what are you trading up for him if you're not going to use him? Well, the Raiders are starting to use him now. He's perfect to use down the seam and over the middle off play action. You can use him after the catch on the flats on a waggle. And of course you can use that big body in the red zone, which he did have a touchdown against the Chargers. He moved the chains a few times on third down too. He does everything you want a tight end to do in the passing game. Mayer gets it done as a run blocker too. I can't help but remember the time Crosby abused and embarrassed him in training camp because he's come such a long way with his blocking. Did you see the way he was able to handle star edge rusher Khalil Mack at times? Mack tossed him up at times too. That's what you get when you have a young stud taking on an older stud. Mayer is on his way. Quarterback Aiden O'Connell got the ball to Tucker, Mayer, and Adams because the Chargers didn't get a lot of pressure on them. The Raider offensive line is showing their depth with the injuries they have now. Second-year man Thayer Munford and veteran Jermaine Alunar have been in the battle for the right tackle spot for the last 2 years. As you know, I favor the youngster from Ohio State as Illuminor usually looks very bad against truly gifted pass rushers. Mumford just needs more consistency, and that will come with more time on the field. But Mack was in town Thursday, and he gives everyone a hard time. Even elite left tackle Colton Miller, and he was unavailable with the shoulder injury, so Mumford moved over to left tackle for him. If you remember, Mack had 6 sacks on a Raider team that had Miller in week 2. Many were afraid of what he might do to the Raiders off the edges without Miller, but it didn't play out the way they thought. Mack had 5 pressures on the day, but he had no quarterback hits and no sacks. After Mack had most of his 6 sacks on Illuminor in week 2, it wasn't so easy in week 15. Mumford made it hard on him too. There was also a discovery made on the interior offensive line. The Raiders have struggled with defenses that are strong on the interior. They've been forced to run more zone blocking because left guard Dylan Parham and center Andre James aren't really your road grader types. They also have a harder time with those bigger, stronger guys in pass protection. However, a discovery was made by the staff that just might fix the interior. I've been saying this for a while now, but Parham is a much better center than he is a guard. He's a big, strong center but small for a guard, so it's easier to run those power gap plays up the middle when he's at center. The nose tackle usually gets moved, and that helps when you're in short yardage and goal line situations. He looked really good in Andre James' plays against the Chargers. Gray Van Roten has been okay at right guard, so what do the Raiders do about left guard? We'll see if DJ Fluker, who recently signed with the Raiders practice squad, can make his way up to the active squad and help. That would make the Raiders a much more physical team. Either way, this offensive line's depth is being tested, and so far they're coming through. Alright, he had Yannick Ngakoue for a minute, but for the most part over his career with the Raiders, it's been Maxx Crosby or nothing as far as sacking the quarterback goes for the Raiders. And now, thanks to Mike Mayock, who is also responsible for drafting Crosby, he has a bookend in Malcolm Koonce. And Crosby and Koonce are benefiting from the inside rush that Wilson is providing now. And behind them, Jones is giving them that much needed corner help. On offense, Tucker has freed Adams in the passing game, and Mayer is giving them another option. And the offensive line is stepping up and weathering the depth challenge. Combine that with what the Raiders already had, and the future is bright. Thank you for watching. See you next time.